Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. We're going to cut right over to this broadcast here right away.
Of this guy is standing out, and that's why he came to the attention of local law enforcement.
No, I get that. That's my point.
Right.
He did stand out,
Correct.
but nothing happened.
Well,
there were alerts,
There were
but there
alerts.
was like, you've got somebody suspicious. Why didn't somebody go interact with the suspicious person, like right away?
And they were attempting to locate him. I can't answer that question as to why, if they took a picture of him and they thought he was unusual, suspicious, not acting normal, why there wasn't. And I think, again, there was probably an assumption on the part of that officer that took that picture that, oh, some uniform or somebody will go eventually and walk up to this.
Well, see, that's what seems like an operational failure. Somebody else will do it. So is the responsibility of an officer to alert some other officer that they think somebody might be suspicious, or the first officer who sees a suspicious person can take the next step to actually engage that person or talk to someone very, very close to it and say engage that person. And this guy was wandering around for quite a while.
He was. I can't put myself in the mind of that officer.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking, this is operationally, how does the process work? Okay, so that is the job of the leaders as opposed to the officers. Are they empowered to act immediately upon the observation of someone who looks very suspicious, particularly when they've got the rangefinder? They were in a place where it really wasn't about seeing the rally. It was, as we see, it was a place where you get a good view of former President Trump. I mean, that is a leadership issue, right?
So, Senator, that officer didn't work for me. That was a state and local officer that made that observation, took that picture. I can tell you from the Secret Service perspective, and we do this routinely, is that when people come to our attention, we locate them, we go up, we do a field interview, or we try to do a consensual encounter.
That's the operational thing I'm talking about. If you do it within Secret Service, you all are in charge, and you are relying on local law enforcement assets. Those folks, and they did their job here up to a point where they identified this person, passed information along, but nobody acted. The empowerment to that local officer, I would think, has to come, be transmitted through the Secret Service, maybe in the earlier briefings, but, where you say, folks, you see somebody suspicious, you engage that suspicious person.
I don't disagree, Senator, and it goes back to my comments at the beginning of the hearing that we need to be very direct to our local law enforcement counterparts so that they understand exactly what their expectations are.
I yield back. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Tillis, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Abate, Mr. Rowe, thank you for being here. Mr. Rowe, do you have a picture? I was watching your testimony earlier. Do you have a photograph of the vantage point from the Secret Service snipers?
I do. Let's see.
And there were two, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Stage left and stage right.
Okay. And I don't know if you have a vantage point of both of them or not. I know you had one for the one who ultimately shot the...
That's the vantage point of the sniper who neutralized the assailant.
Okay. Well, is it a similar vantage point for the other? Would they have also been impaired in terms of actually seeing him until he popped his head up?
So the sniper on the stage right side, Senator, they had an obstructed view because of that tree.
They had an obstructed view. Okay. Yeah. So the one thing, this discussion that I don't believe that a sniper saw someone on the roof 20 minutes before just doesn't make sense to me. It sounds like the one who took the shot probably saw him for the first time about a split second before he pulled the trigger. Is that?
That's my assessment, Senator.
Well, first off, I'd like to clarify the requests that have been made of a lot of people so that we get the information in a good form. I think it would be helpful, at least all the way back to, I think, November 5th of 2020, 2022, I believe, when President Trump announced that he was running for reelection. I think it'd be helpful if we could just get a matrix of any request for additional security, the resolution of that request. Was it honored? Was it denied? Was it downsized? If you could give us that, I think that that's going to be the best way versus giving us mounds and mounds of paper. If you can do that, I know you're looking at the same thing. I've heard from you that any subsequent requests for field requests are being honored. I believe that that's true. Is that your testimony?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm more worried about the 24 to 30 seconds between the time I believe local law enforcement officer was hoisted on the shoulders of another police officer, saw a person armed less than 200 yards away from the president, who I believe jumped down. What happened in those 24 or 30 seconds? I mean, obviously, there's no such thing as a panic button. You know, the first thing you'd think is you hit panic, you cover the president, get him off stage. None of that happened. What happened? Is it just did I hear a text message? What actually happened in the 30 seconds where a law enforcement officer knew that a gun was pointed in the direction of the president from a fairly short range? What actually did those folks who did have knowledge of exactly what was happening and could probably infer what was about to happen, what did they do? And Mr. Abate or Mr. Rowe, either one, based on your interviews.
Thank you, Senator. From the interviews, you know, the officers in the immediate vicinity were operating with urgency at that point to get to this person, but he was on the roof. The officer who had looked over the edge, based on what I've been told, the shooter turned toward him with the rifle. That's what the officer observed. So he was under threat himself in that second. So he had to retreat and step down and get back to the ground in order to protect himself and keep him safe from potential rifle fire. But once he got to the ground, along with other officers, there were Butler County local officers, Pennsylvania State Police. They were moving around trying to
I think
find someone to get to
clearly
this guy.
We've got an operational problem here because we had more than 20 seconds to have somehow cut through all the crap and the communications, whatever impediments there were, have to be removed. I mean, it's pretty clear to me. First off, that law enforcement officer, I love law enforcement. I wear the back of the blue pin every day. They do great work. Secret Service did phenomenal work on the stage. But they failed because their job is to protect the public. And they needed to put themselves in harm's way to stop him. Now, I'll let the interviews go through, but there was a massive failure. There were at least 2 law enforcement officers that knew a guy was about to pull the trigger at the president. And, you know, I'm just not really happy with the fact that we couldn't have communicated, covered President Trump, and tried to secure the situation. I'm going to let the investigation go through, but I think it's go forward. I think it's very important to point out that we can't let a scenario go in the future where 20 seconds can lapse when a law enforcement officer within 2 football fields of a former president of the United States has material knowledge that somebody's about to get shot at on stage, and we don't have instantaneous response. You know, in the old days, maybe you just shoot a gun in the air. I know for a lot of reasons why they didn't do that, but there had to be some way to actually diffuse that situation. It didn't happen on July the 13th. I just want to end by saying, Mr. Rowe, I think you've been forthcoming in your answers. I know you're frustrated. I've seen you twice now. You're clearly embarrassed by what happened. You don't think there's any reasonable explanation. And to my colleagues who are worried about communications, they should spend time in their local government and state legislatures to understand just how bad communication is between law enforcement and first responders. We need to invest in this infrastructure. That was also a part of the failure. But if you can please get to me and get to this committee a chronology of requests, accepted, denied, and the reasons for, I think that's going to be very helpful.
I will, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Blackburn, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to each of you for your patience and for being here today. Director Rowe, I want to come to you first because a counter sniper has decided to speak out about the culture at your agency, and I think it is very telling. And he sent an email, and I'm going to quote from that. If this agency needs to change, and if not now, when? The next assassination in 30 days? But here's what I want to talk with you about, because in this email, he says, and I'm quoting again, the motto of the USSS is CYA. And every supervisor is doing it now. That's the end of his quote. So you're the guy in charge. And you're one of those supervisors. You've been a career guy there at the Secret Service. The public has lost trust in the ability to execute the mission, to protect. And I want to know how you feel about the fact that employees in your agency are worried about covering their behind and not worried about protecting a former president.
Thank you, Senator. So I am hurt by that email, but not in the way you think I'm saying it. I'm hurt because my people are hurting right now. We need them.
Then why did somebody delete the email?
I'll get back to you on that,
The
Senator.
agency deleted the email.
But look, may I address your question? And,
Yes,
and
please.
I will get back to you as to
Please.
whether
Yes.
the email was deleted or not. My agency is hurting. Emotions are raw. I actually want to hear more from that UD officer, that technician. In his email, he referenced that he had spent time serving our nation as a United States Marine, that he is a 20-year professional of the Secret Service. I am committed to being a change agent, meaning I am committed to reviewing some of these things. I looked at the points in his email very quickly. I saw it as I was on my way over here this morning. I want to have further conversations, not only with him,
Let
but
me-
also the counter sniper
If I may
supervisors.
step back in, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you want to talk with him. What about other whistleblowers? What about this culture? Are you going to allow these whistleblowers to speak out? Because it is troublesome if somebody went into the server and deleted that email. I would hope you will get to the bottom of that and be able to provide some answers. Because this is, as you have heard from both sides, this is a situation that cannot be allowed to happen again,
Yes, ma'am.
ever. Mr. Abate, and am I saying your name properly? We've heard it pronounced 3 different ways today in the hearing.
Abate, Senator.
Abate, okay.
Thank you.
You had mentioned a social media account that espoused anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic views, but you did not say what platform that was on and what the username was. And this is Crooks that we're discussing.
Yes, Senator, that's correct. I didn't want to comment on it because we haven't fully confirmed yet, and I thought that as soon as we confirm and certify,
Would
I
you
will
supply
provide that to you.
And
Absolutely.
also the age at which he had those feelings. And then we understand that the Gab account is pro-immigration, pro-lockdown, leftist views. Is that accurate?
I haven't seen it directly, but I believe from what I've been told, that is accurate. With the Gab account, we're also, though that's been publicly revealed through the CIO and other things, we're still working to certify and verify that that's his account also. But it does have differing points of view, it would appear.
Okay. And what age and how fresh is that Gab account?
The Gab account, based on my recollection, the comments in there or the messaging is from about 2021, I believe.
Okay. And the other preceded that? Maybe he was age 14?
Yes, Senator. The other account that we talked about was in the 2019-2020 timeframe, so it would have been in the couple years right before the Gab
Right
messaging.
before that.
Yes.
Are there other accounts that you all are currently verifying and receiving information from?
We are. We've, as I mentioned, we've issued a bunch of legal process, and we're still awaiting returns from a number of the companies, to include other social media companies as well.
Okay. Well, my time has expired. Thank you for your patience today. Thank you for the information. We look forward to getting more information and Director Rowe, we are going to hold you to being a change agent because things at the Secret Service absolutely have to change. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I want to thank our witnesses for your testimony here today. Certainly what happened on July 13th could and should have been prevented from what I have heard today. I'm certainly grateful to our witnesses for their candid answers and for helping to provide additional clarity and new information about the circumstances surrounding this attack. Acting Director Rowe, some of what you have said today conflicts with information and accounts that we have received from local law enforcement that we've had the opportunity to talk with. They have been voluntarily and I will say expeditiously cooperating with our bipartisan investigation, which we certainly appreciate. But we now need to speak with Secret Service agents directly, who are directly involved. And I would say that you need to make them available as soon as possible. Those interviews can't start weeks from now or months from now. Time is of the essence when memories are fresh and you can get the information that is most important to us. So my question for you as we wrap up this hearing, Acting Director Rowe, will you commit to having those agents available for this committee to interview as soon as possible in a matter of days, not weeks, matter of days?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. Certainly the American people deserve to know what went wrong and they deserve accountability for those security failures. And as we continue our bipartisan investigation into security failures that day and any underlying systemic issues, we'll continue working to follow the facts, get clear answers, and make important recommendations to ensure that a security failure like this never happens again. The hearing record will remain open for 15 days until 5 p.m. on August 14th, 2024. For the submission of statements and for the questions for the record, this hearing is now adjourned.
Wow. Sorry I got to that late, you guys. I had a power outage this morning, all kinds of good stuff going on. But thank you for joining. We're going to look at a quick recap of everything that happened this morning with this hearing. The Trump rally shooter hearing. My gosh. What was posted on social media, according to PBS here? It says, Abbott said the FBI had discovered over 700 social media comments they believe were made by the shooter. And that is around 2019 and 2020 that he described as anti-Semitic and anti-immigrant. Quote, some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes to espouse political violence and are described as extreme in nature, Abbott said. Quote, while the investigation team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it is important to share it today. The joint hearing of the Senate Homeland Security and Senate Judiciary Committee was the latest to examine what investigators have learned about the shooter who attempted to assassinate former President Donald Trump at a Pennsylvania campaign rally, as well as the security failures that preceded the deadly shootings. It says here, Rowe, who since 2023 had been serving as Deputy Director of the Secret Service, was appointed Acting Director after Kimberly Cheadle's resignation. And we remember Kimberly Cheadle. We remember Cheadle from last week. She resigned a few days later after that hearing where she admitted the massive failure that occurred. So that's an interesting information there about the social media, considering there's a lot of different information going on about that, right? Oh, gosh, where am I here? Okay, sorry, getting distracted. I have too many windows open. Let me close that. So it's interesting considering we were hearing a lot of conflicting information that there was little to no social media. This is what we knew. And then that they were saying this shooter, which there's so many conspiracies out there. Some people are like, that's not even him. There's 2 shooters. There's 3 shooters. There's a lot of speculation because we just don't have a lot of information Well, actually, we do have a lot of information, and it just doesn't add up. Anyway, people are saying, one side of the aisle is saying that this guy was right wing. The other side is saying he's left wing. But now we have information showing that he's pro lockdown, pro immigration, anti-Semitic, allegedly, according to this report here by PBS. So it's an interesting little development there. Pardon me, guys. Pardon me. Hello, Kai. Thank you for joining. Hello, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Oh. Testing. Great. Testing. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that. What else did we learn today? Senator Hawley tears into acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe Jr. for failing to relieve any of the Secret Service agents of their duties following the Trump assassination attempt. Let's pull this clip up that Santino pulled this morning. You can follow Santino on X. I'll put his name up here for y'all. Let me see. Let's play this real quick.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So, yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here.
And
you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty? What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed.
Has the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to
investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
I cannot put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise.
What do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
then
just like you have.
Somebody to
and I will
hold
tell
them
you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
We've got people who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that your protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally-goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it.
Holy smokes. That is pretty embarrassing, I will admit. Wow. All right, let's go onward here and check out some more from the hearing that just ended. Let's see here. This is just more digging. It's intense here. The room gasps. This is a clip, a few minutes here. So let's check this out as a quick recap in case you missed it. Let's go.
American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded. Isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down.
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
So who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly
Yeah.
what was the entire decision process. So I think
Yeah.
I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here.
And
So you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed
As the
spectacularly.
person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the
because-
person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
What more do
or
you need
two
to
individuals,
investigate
we want
to
find out
know
exactly what the
more do you
decision-making
need to
process
investigate
was.
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot,
people didn't do their
I cannot
jobs.
put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
What do you mean put your thumb on
the
the scale?
objective, you're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the
Is it
Secret
not
Service.
prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody to
And I will
hold them
tell you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people
I can't believe
unfairly
that you
persecuted.
are unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly,
We've got people
sir.
who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that your protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years, that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator, as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And
not
you
personally.
weren't involved in any of that? You
No,
were never
sir, I
involved
was
in the
not.
decision making?
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you just one or two other things here quickly. Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblowers tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this, and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact. I'm also told that local law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones and you declined them. Is that true?
So, Senator, one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
That remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days. So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
Were
Senator.
you offered drones?
Senator
So there
Hawley.
was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Wow.
Again, I think the ability of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
Wow. Wow. There you see the U.S. Secret Service Acting Director Rowe, who's in place now after Cheadle has resigned, saying that he's basically been acting in good faith, etc. And then the response to that was, well, you haven't fired anybody yet. And of course, the U.S. Secret Service has taken full responsibility for what unfolded that day. SS Director Rowe admits the Secret Service was in charge of the entire operation and the failure of the Secret Service. I have more information here on that. So let's take a quick look at this clip here. In this clip from Fox that details a little bit of that real quick.
What I would caution, though, is that I sense, and you're the Secret Service, and these people are your friends, and they are heroic people who do good things, that we can't let our friendships blind us from responsibility. So someone's in charge of the security at the zone. Would the Secret Service be in charge of the entire operation, and they work with law enforcement, but they're in charge? The person in charge of the entire operation is the Secret Service, not the local police.
You're correct, sir. This is a failure of the Secret Service.
So that's what I mean. And look, I don't wish anybody harm. What I would call.
So onward, I want to hear a little bit more in case you guys didn't hear it. I know we started late. I want to go back to this drone line of questioning. I think it's very important. So let's listen to this. This does not look good. These facts that came out today. So let's go ahead and watch that information here.
Director Rowe, can you explain why the shooter's drone worked?
Because there was no counter UAS present, sir.
Well, you had a drone system, but you had bandwidth problems. The bandwidth apparently was adequate for the shooter's drone, but not for the Secret Service. Can you explain that?
I have no explanation for it, sir.
We also know that in a military context, electronic warfare or jamming capabilities are commonly used on the battlefield. Does the Secret Service have jamming capabilities or drones?
We have drones, sir, and when it comes to, I have to be very careful about how I answer this one in an open forum. What I can tell you is that we have technical security measures, sir, to address, I think, what you're asking me.
Well, the question is, can you take down a suspicious drone? Because this can be used not only for surveillance by the shooter, which obviously it was here, but also drones can be weaponized and be used as a threat to the president, or in this case, the President Trump. Do you have the capacity to stop a weaponized drone?
What I will tell you, sir, is that we have technical security measures that we utilize at permanently protected sites. We also have the ability in a limited fashion at temporary sites. What I can tell you is that on this day, the counter UAS system had technical difficulties and did not go operational until after 5 o'clock.
So in this case, the shooter had a rifle, but somebody who wanted to kill a president for a former president or a candidate for president would not need a rifle. They could use a drone, correct?
It is a potential threat vector.
Hey, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge Sareed. Thank you for tuning in, and everyone else. Sareed, I'm reading some of your comments here. Do you have a specific question you want me to address? I do have multiple chats as well, and I'm doing my best to keep track. Thank you guys all for tuning in across the board here. Good to see you. Yeah, if you have a specific question, I'm not going to read all points 1 through 8 and then respond to each one. If you have a specific question, I'll be happy to respond to that. I did find the email that they talked about during the hearing today, and I want to review that. So Susan Crabtree posted this on X. Thank you to Wendy Patterson for sharing it out, because I did not catch this. So this was published today, and they talked about this. This is allegedly an email that was deleted from the servers by the U.S. Secret Service, and it's an interesting one. Let's check that out, guys. This is just wild stuff. Here's what Susan Crabtree wrote on X. She writes, exclusive. A Secret Service counter sniper sent an email Monday night to the entire uniformed division, not agents, saying he will not stop speaking out until, quote, 5 high-level supervisors, 1 down, are either fired or removed from their current positions, unquote. The counter sniper also said the agency, quote, should expect another assassination attempt, unquote, before November, and complained that he is no longer proud to be a U.S. Secret Service counter sniper after leadership failed the officers at the Trump rally in Butler on 7/13. Quote, this agency needs to change, the sniper wrote in the email. If not now, when? The next assassination in 30 days, unquote. Quote, sadly, we have fallen short for years, unquote. Quote, we just look good doing it. I have conveyed these thoughts to not only supervisors, to include the current captain of CS, but those responsible for training us, SOTS/CS, only to be brushed off as those with less experience somehow knew more than me. He goes on and writes this, quote, the team I was once proud to be a part of is something I have to somehow hide as I move into my next career. The counter sniper continued, quote, who wants to hire a USSS CS guy who failed? That's the public perception I'm now faced with. The USSS CS team is a stain I will never be able to cleanse. He concluded with 2 lines, the motto of the USSS, CYA or CIA, and every supervisor is doing it right now. The agency quickly deleted the email. A knowledgeable source told Real Clear Politics. The full email with the name redacted is here, and I've shared that on X. So, yeah, my goodness. That is just remarkable, to say the least. Absolutely remarkable. Got a comment here from Chain on X. I'm more shocked that it took this long for them to create Crook's account and rewrite history. So he's basically saying that this is fake. Which, what, you know, I don't know. I'm just looking at what we know. Man, I'm going to head over to Truth and see if we have anything from Donald Trump this morning on all of this or not. Probably not. He's been rather quiet on the matter. He said he's not going to talk about it, and it looks like that's true. He's not talking about it. He's just quiet. He did actually say something 4 hours ago. He says this, quote, this is from Donald J. Trump 4 hours ago on on Truth. He says, quote, Facebook has just admitted that it, that it wrongly censored the Trump attempted assassination photo and got caught. Same thing for Google. They made it virtually impossible to find pictures or anything about this heinous act. Both are facing big backlash over censorship claims. Here we go again, another attempt at rigging the election. Go after Meta and Google. Let them know we are all wise to them. We'll be much tougher this time. MAGA 2024. And this comes after Elon Musk and many other people were noticing some censorship, alleged censorship on various platforms, including Google and Facebook, etc., that appeared to be hiding information about Trump. to where everyone was really yelling loud about it. So I don't know if we've heard a response from everybody on this, but it's certainly concerning, very concerning, and Trump did address that, which is good to see. Very good, very good. Well, let's see what else we got on this as a quick recap here. Just absolutely wild stuff. We also, you guys, just so you know, I posted a video on X last night, this morning, about Venezuela. They just had an election, and in an apparent coup have, fallen under leadership that seems to be counter to what the public had voted for. So they're currently going through massive protests, riots, violence, tearing down statues, tearing down posters and billboards, fires, and it's just crazy there in Venezuela. So that's something that we might want to keep our eye on to see how this all shakes out. But it looks like they're not happy there. Onward. Yeah, so we had Venezuelan President Maduro accusing Elon Musk of election interference yesterday. He says, quote, social media creates a virtual reality, and who controls that virtual reality? Our new arch enemy, the famous Elon Musk. Do you want to fight? Let's do it, Elon Musk. I'm ready. I'm not afraid of you, Elon Musk. Let's fight wherever you want. Maduro was seen holding a cell phone as he declared war on Elon Musk, alleging Musk wants to invade Venezuela with his space rockets. And this comes right after this election, where Elon Musk was critical on X regarding it. So, wow. Absolutely wow. All right, guys. Well, we'll recap this again soon. Follow me on X if you would, please, at ReadyF4Any. I'll be putting out more content there and elsewhere, so thank you for following me everywhere. I know if you go on Rumble, there's some additional content there, as well as on X in my highlights or pinned to the top of my profile. Some good stuff. In case you missed it, I'm going to end with one of these clips. I'm going to do this House Oversight Committee UFO UAP public hearing because it was the anniversary 2 days ago, 1 year anniversary. And this is a huge story. I think it's going to come back to the forefront here. I think we'll see if it does or not, but I think this information is still relevant. Soon, it seems like everybody just forgot about it. Like it's nothing, and it's been debunked. Some people say this has been debunked, it's fake, blah, blah, blah. But, maybe it holds water. Let me know what you think. In this video, I detail Game Tech Politics post about this a month before the whistleblower came forward, and he gave us this warning. And so check this out. And without further ado, this is a pretty remarkable story. What did you think when it came across your desk?
It scared the living shit out of me. This information, this forced disclosure, the intelligence community combats them by saying this will break down our society if this information comes out.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, Biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.